Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. We've all heard it a million times, right? It's especially true in this vicious sport we call MMA. You cannot blow a 28-3 lead in one play in football. You can have a 24-59 lead in our sport and lose it all in one moment. These are a couple of my favorite so close moments in MMA. Prime Tony Ferguson is one of the greatest lightweights of all time. So for a UFC newcomer like Lando Venata to step up to the plate and take Tony Ferguson on short notice might be one of the craziest things you could possibly do. Not only did he sign on the dotted line, people forget he dropped Tony Ferguson a whopping 4 times in about 15 seconds. It was rare for us to see Tony in that much trouble. His defense always left a lot to be desired, but this is also a picture-perfect setup by Lando. Tony's chin, his toughness, and his balance were the only things that got him through this. Pretty much the only guy to successfully incorporate Dark Souls rolling into his fight style. Tony would eventually catch him in a Bravo choke, but I don't think any of us expected the back-and-forth battle we just got. Tony's reaction says it all, but just imagine if Lando had gotten him out of there. He was realistically 1 or 2 hard shots away at any given time in that scramble. Does Lando gain some confidence by keeping his 0 and maybe avoid going 4-6-2 in his next 12? Who knows? The head kick heard round the world. You knew this one was coming. When I see this head kick, that song "This Is What Dreams Are Made Of" starts playing in my head. It wasn't all luck, though. Leon had literally been chipping away at Usman's legs for the entire fight. It was sort of like Bisping's Rockhold knockout. Luck, game plan, arrogance, destiny. Probably a little bit of everything. Specifically, Usman was 56 seconds away from tying Anderson Silva's 16-fight win streak and making a solid argument at greatest welterweight of all time. Kamaru's only lost 2 majority decisions to elite competition since, so I'm not willing to call him washed quite yet, but really, how much longer does his reign go without some kind of divine intervention? Leon's only loss, other than Usman, was a split decision in his UFC debut. How does he recover from 2 losses to the champ? Does he end up on the losing side against Bilal either way? How does Kevin Lee fit into this? If you want a perfect example of the fragile nature of legacies in the fight game, think of Bisping and GSP. Bisping had been on a late career tear since finding Jason Perillo, outlasting Anderson Silva, landing left hook Larry on Luke Rockhold, and even avenging his loss to Dan Henderson. Did this late career resurgence have anything to do with USADA being implemented? I'd bet yes, but who knows. With this George St. Pierre fight, Mike was claiming he'd be an all-time great with a win. I don't really agree necessarily, but it'd be a much stronger argument being the only guy in history to beat Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre. That is a massive accolade, man. As the fight went, it was playing out pretty much like everyone had predicted. GSPing Bisping. Here's the thing about Mike, though. You fight this guy, you better pack a lunch. He has some of the best cardio in the game. On the other side, George was fighting with an extra 15 pounds of weight, dealing with ulcerative colitis, and was visibly fatiguing not even halfway into the fight. He even got the worst of the ground game with those elbows from the bottom by Mike. We weren't quite in impending upset territory yet, but really, look at George right here and tell me he wasn't thinking, I have got to figure something out fast. And that is where George St. Pierre's cutthroat nature comes into play, with his break glass in case of emergency. I'm sure everyone knows this by now, but Bisping fought with one eye. He was effectively blind in round 5 of the Henderson fight.
Dan Henderson, you're a fucking legend. I can't see you right now, but you're a fucking legend.
So George, without much left, dipped down, hit a blind spot left hook, and avoided the biggest upset in UFC history. I think you can argue Pat's issues started when he was unable to get over his fanaticism of Crow Cop. Or earlier. George St. Pierre had the same issue against Matt Hughes. Congo Barry didn't necessarily have massive stakes, but Pat would end up going 2-5 in this span. I wonder how much of this fight played into that, CTE or otherwise. But skipping to the part we all know about, this was like an anime scene. If you were a hardcore fan of either guy in this fight, I'd imagine you still haven't fully recovered from it to this day. Kupchak Congo would go on to have a solid career after, competing a few times for the Bellator heavyweight title, shattering athletic cups far and wide on his way. The single, #1, so close, so near, and so far moment in MMA history. Nothing tops this, and I don't think anything ever will. Anderson Silva was in his absolute prime. UFC middleweight champion, on top of everyone's GOAT lists, well respected and even more feared, He was the fight that nobody wanted, and he was the one with the belt. Insert the best trash talker in the history of the sport. Not only the best trash talker with a purpose.
When my dad died, the last thing I ever said to him, I said to him, I'm going to beat Tito Ortiz, and I'm going to win the world championship. It's the only promise I never... It's the only promise I never kept.
Chael had talked so much shit leading up to this fight. He built himself up to where only a 5-round beatdown would live up to the hype. And here's the crazy part. Chael landed 289 strikes, which is a UFC record at the time, landing 270 of those 289 on the ground. The judges had the fight scored 40-36, 40-35, 40-34. By definition, this was not a dogfight. This was not some war.
This is gonna be a one-sided pounding and I'm swinging the hammer.
Anderson Silva was always a crafty fighter that was calm and composed, even in the face of the worst spot he'd ever found himself in. 2 minutes left, no decision to be won, and too tired to even get back to his feet. A Hail Mary triangle attempt caught everyone off guard, retained Silva's belt, and ripped Chael's heart firmly out of his chest. I think it's fair to say Chael becomes one of the biggest stars in the sport with a win like that over Anderson, but just in general, Sonnen is one of the greatest to never win a belt, even with the testosterone of an elephant. But even if it was for only that night, even if the rematch went exactly the same way with Anderson wresting the belt back, and with the utmost respect to Anderson, I think this is fair to say. Chael Sonnen lost this fight. Anderson Silva did not win this fight.